For over 3,000 years of recorded history, the study of astrology has been an interesting panoply of ideas. And people from the earliest pharaohs of Egypt to kings and queens and emperors to modern days, even back to Napoleon and to Adolf Hitler and even current presidents have had the influence of astrology impact their lives. And Joan Quigley, what's an astrologer?
Oh, an astrologer is someone who plots the meaning of the map of the heavens that represents when a person or an idea or a country or a beginning is born. It's a map of the heavens for the time and place of birth.
So let me, maybe you've been doing this for about what, 45 years?
Close to that. I mean, a little bit more, but.
One of the things that I always wondered what you might think about is, why do you think that astrology has endured through all of these millennia?
Because it's truth, and I think now I have always known that astrology was scientific. My first recollection of astrology when I was about 15 years old, my mother went to an astrologer for an afternoon's entertainment, and she came home quite convinced that it was scientific. And she had all our horoscopes cast up, and she bought a lot of astrology books, and I read every last one of them. And when I came home from college, I said to my father, I want to be an astrologer. Well, if I had said I wanted to be a refugee from a gypsy tea room, he couldn't have been more alarmed. And he said, but he was a reasonable man, and he was indulgent with his daughters. And he said, you may study astrology if you like, Joan, but don't tell my friends or your friends.
One of the things that has always been, I guess, cast the pale over astrology is the fact that they called it a pseudoscience.
Oh, but it isn't a pseudoscience. It's quite scientific. According to Einstein's theory, all matter is frozen energy, and that energy is suffused with light. And the light within us responds to the light without, either conversely or directly. Recently in Switzerland there was a study, and they took a light beam and cut it in half, and they put each half down a chute that went about 10 kilometers apart, and when they reached their destination they released the light beam, and they found that they both went in the same direction. And so light beams have a direction that they go in, and they affect us. I mean, I've seen this, it's almost physical. When Saturn goes overhead, you can take the most beautiful young woman or the handsomest young man, and if it's squaring their moon or their Venus, they think they look in the mirror and they think they look ugly. I've never seen it different.
Let me be your devil's advocate here, because there's lots of people out there in the world that would say, oh, this is nothing more than, a little psychobabble, that they throw a lot of words out there, but they don't understand astrology. For those people that think that these are, because when you say sun, square, moon, or things like that, these people don't understand what that means.
Well, I apologize for using astrological terms because I can't express it otherwise. There is a definite effect of light on human beings, and I think Einstein recognized it, and a lot of physicists have recognized it. It just hasn't been really proved yet, but I can catch a glimpse of it now from all the things I've observed. I can tell you to the day when things will happen. It's absolutely accurate, and I have a system now that is unbelievable. Nothing will ever be totally accurate, but you see, well,
let's follow that up. You just said something very important. You said nothing will be completely accurate. Why would you say something like that?
Well, what I do is very accurate. I mean, I can be accurate to the minute almost sometimes. But what I've done, I've evolved a system that's very computer friendly. I have always done very outstanding people. They just vibrate toward me, and people who've accomplished a lot or are very important in some way. However, about 10 years ago, I started dipping into the mass market. You wanted the subject of this was the mass market astrology.
Well,
dipping into the kind of people that never came to me until I became very well known, and then all kinds of people were calling me, and I couldn't deal with this. I couldn't satisfy them all, and if I put them in the hands of other astrologers, that they made terrible mistakes and cost these people a lot of agony and hardship. And so I felt that there must be some way that I could give what I knew to the public at large. And when they say the mass market for astrology, there is no such thing, because of all the people in the mass market are individuals. And I have discovered, I have sort of invented or created a system using computer where if I did 1 million horoscopes, there would be 1 million different answers to the questions.
All right, let's step back just a bit here. We might be getting just a tad ahead of ourselves on this. Where I really want to go is understanding one important issue here, and that is there are a lot of people that are very religious in character, and that's they can be from any religious background for any matter. Astrology has always been across the globe. It's been in India, it's been in China, it's been
South America,
in Russia. It's been everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right, and still religion, traditional religion still survives. But it seems that sometimes people think that astrology is what they call New Age, Babel, and they feel it is the false prophet. Now, how would you respond to that kind of criticism?
Well, I think we're going into the Aquarian age, and Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus, which is the astrologer's planet. I think in this age, which will be 2,000 years long, astrology will really come into its own, and its scientific merit will be appreciated.
So you think that you think that you just I guess what you've done is you just put a fork in the ground and say it just works and is based on mathematics, not based on.
It's based on mathematics and science. It's based on the science of astronomy and mathematics.
Well, let me ask you this then: why could, let's say, 4 or 5 different astrologers do one person's chart and come up with 4 or 5 different answers? How is that possible?
Because 3 or 4 of them are wrong.
And that causes great confusion, mind you, for those out there that might be interested in.
Economists are the same. Economists are the same, and some doctors think one thing and some think another. I don't think you'll find any discipline that's modern or ancient or anything where people totally agree. Right. And I think there's such an interest in astrology now. Every magazine, every newspaper, but all they are given is sun sign stuff, and astrology is much more complex than that. And what I'm trying to do, and I'm succeeding, it will customize the mass market. In other words, it will personalize what comes to you. You'll have your real horoscope and not just be, I mean, how can 1/12 of the world's population be experiencing the same thing on a given day?
We understand that.
These are absurd. They do show an interest in astrology.
Let me ask you this. Our parents have always given us their sage advice. They always give their children sage advice. They say you should not do this and you should do that. And a lot of times children disregard what their parents say or authority figures say to them, and they go their own way. Let's take that step with astrology one step and say that you make a prediction for someone. How do you know that they'll follow through with it?
Well, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I think the reason I said that astrology may not be absolutely exact is this, or appear to be not absolutely exact, is this. There are certain configurations of the planets and predictions that can be made that are absolutely certain. There's nothing you can do to change them. They're absolute fate. And then there's a part of astrology where free will operates. And in that part of astrology, you can make good things better or avoid difficulties.
One of the things I've got to interrupt you. I've got to interrupt you on that point, because that's one of the why is it after 3,000 years of recorded astrological study, no one can explain the difference to most people about their free will on one hand and the fated issues on the other. Can you help us out with that?
Well, yes, but it would be very technical and nobody would understand it.
Well, give it a try. Let's follow down that road and see what.
No, I really don't want to answer that question right now.
All right.
What I want to do is put out my form of astrology, and people will see that for themselves.
All right. So, would you say that there are now, as you said, you started this study as a young girl, and you did that. Where did you grow up? Let's find that out.
Well, I grew up in San Francisco.
So
my life really began when my mother went, when I was 15, to the astrologer for an afternoon's entertainment.
And that just captures you forever.
It captured me forever, and I couldn't wait to go to this lady and ask her to teach me astrology. And she said, "Well, I hate the mathematics. If you do the mathematics on your own, I will teach you." And of course, the math was so simple for me. I'd had a lot of advanced math in college, and so I was able to do that.
What was your course of study at what university did you go?
I went to Vassar.
And now tell us, what did you study there?
I studied art history. I studied economics. I studied geology. I studied, oh my goodness, I had a fabulous course in Shakespeare. Absolutely fabulous.
Well, you had an extremely broad...
I had a liberal arts education.
And
that was very good for what I did. But the art history was excellent because it taught me to recognize symbols and visual things.
Now, did you study
my mind in that way?
Did you study the metaphysics part of astrology as well? Did you study the Hinduism and all of the different religions and all the ancient studies?
I think the subject of religion is fascinating, and people who say that the Bible's against religion, well, the Bible is against the sort of pop astrology people, but there's a lot of very interesting things in the Bible. I mean, just the star that the wise men followed, they were obviously astrologers. And I have a friend who's a Catholic, and he said that in the Catholic material for Christmas, they call the wise men of the King James Version the astrologers. And then, of course, there's a famous passage, "There is a time for all things." And then there is the 12 signs in the early part of the Bible, which are the sons of the 12 sons of Benjamin or someone like that. I can't remember anymore, but they all describe the various signs of the zodiac, actually.
Well, you're a very bright lady, and seemingly with the education that you had and your intelligence, you've been doing astrology for a number of years. That it must work. Do you use it on a